We're joined now by the Executive Director at Migration Watch UK, Mike Jones. Mike, thanks very much for joining us on Good Afternoon Britain. Talk to me quickly about how this process actually works. How can a refugee in Britain from Syria make the decision to go back? What's set up to formalise that process?
Well, there aren't many barriers in terms of voluntary returns. That's fairly straightforward. I think the trickier issue is in terms of forced deportations. For example, if an illegal migrant arrives here across the English Channel or in the back of a lorry, there will be a number of legal hurdles to overcome if the British state wants to return those people. Because, Syria post-Assad is a mosaic, a smorgasbord of different groups controlling different parts of the country. There's no guarantee at all that Syria will have a stable centralized government. It could end up like Libya, a vortex of violence and hatred and destabilization. So legally speaking, forcibly returning people is going to be very difficult. But I can't see many hurdles or barriers in terms of voluntary returns.
Well, this is the difficulty, isn't it? You have a large number of people out on the streets celebrating the toppling of the Assad regime, but no one's truly aware of what happens next, really. These rebel groups, whether they will provide a more stable, a safer country for people to return to. But the numbers are absolutely extraordinary, aren't they? In this country, tens of thousands, but in Germany in particular, well over 1 million Syrians.
Yes, the numbers are quite large. Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom. I think initially you will have quite a few returns, people returning voluntarily from Jordan and Turkey. But in terms of Syrian migrants here in Europe, that's going to be a slow burn process because the situation in Britain is very stable. We have a prosperous, high trust society. Syria could end up as a failed state. And obviously there are Syrians here who do want to return for cultural and family reasons. But if that country is going to end up as a failed state, then obviously they're going to stay here, regardless of whether they're, anti-Assad or even sympathetic to the government that takes over.
Mike, I've just got a breaking line actually coming out of Germany in the last hour. The government there is pausing asylum applications for Syrians after the fall of this Assad regime. Some 47,000 applications from Syrians remain undecided, but they'll now be paused. We've also just heard from the head of the Bavarian Conservatives saying it's the right decision. We have to consider now how a greater number of people can be repatriated to their Syrian homeland. Germany, of course, over 1 million Syrian refugees in that country after Angela Merkel's decision to open the doors, as it were, in 2015. But they're taking steps already to adjust their refugee and asylum process with Syria after the toppling of this regime, it seems.
Oh, yeah, and that's quite sensible. Don't get me wrong on this. I don't think Britain is in a position to take more refugees from the Middle East. The ideal solution for this is for the UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, to work with countries in close proximity to Syria, rather than relying on European countries to take the burden. If you look at the academic evidence, refugee flows are strongly correlated with security threats, whether that's crime or terrorism. And obviously it's very unpopular with the polis, with the general public. So there are very good national security reasons and democratic reasons for not allowing more people into your country.
You say that, but if the rebels who've taken over, who've toppled the Assad regime, prove to make the country less stable and less safe for people, and there's huge amounts of corruption or brutality, we await to see what happens. There could, in fact, be a massive push for more migratory waves from Syria, and there will be a lot of people in this country who say we should do our part, that it shouldn't be just down to the neighbouring countries.
That's the danger. If a strong centralized government does not emerge, then you've got a power vacuum, and you could have a situation like Libya where you have different parts of the country governed by different warlords. And, that's fertile territory for smuggling gangs to operate. There's no coherent state to stop people from leaving the country. And yeah, the refugee flows could increase, and obviously there'll be, wailing and gnashing of teeth from the NGOs and the human rights lobby, who will insist that we take on our fair share, inverted commas. So that's a huge danger here.